Right, it is Monday, June 17th, 2024. It is 6:00 PM and we do have a quorum present. I do ask you to silence your cell phones. I hadn't said that already, so if you'll please silence your cell phones just so the meeting goes more smoothly. Be greatly appreciated. Janie is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Janie. Paul Mostella is going to read our board mission statement.
Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, Tolosa Midway ISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experience.
Thank you, Paul. Our next item is public comment, which is the time for members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comments. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board, except that non-English speakers will be allowed a maximum of 6 minutes to address the board. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous, avoid using profanity, and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Yelling, inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own child. I also caution you that your public comments should not complain about individual school employees by name or position, or other than your own child identify students. As presiding officer, I am obligated to determine whether a person addressing the board has attempted to administratively resolve any complaints or grievances about which they want to address the board that involve district officers or employees. In the event your comment constitutes a complaint or charge against an employer or officer, it may be necessary for me to interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the school district's formal grievance procedures or have the item heard in executive session depending on the nature of the complaint. Any concerns or complaints regarding individual district employees, students, or parents must be resolved via the district's grievance process, which can be found online and include policies DGBA, FNG, and GF. Thank you, and our first speaker is Ms. Frances Bain.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Frances Bain, and I have been a resident of the Tolosa Midway community for 32 years. As you know, I am no longer employed by TM. When being elected to the board, your job is really just beginning. You are to represent and advocate for the interest of the students, the parents, and the taxpayers. I have worked at Tolosa Midway for 12 years, and I have 2 daughters that graduated from Tolosa Midway. What you may not know about me is that my husband was an employee of the Texas Education Agency as the Texas Education Region 2 Field Service Agent. His main responsibility was to assure that board members were trained to be knowledgeable regarding board policy and the laws as it relates to their elected positions. I am very concerned about a number of issues that I see happening at Tolosa. I am here to ask some questions I hope you will use as a starting point to answer some of my concerns. They are not only my concerns, they are concerns of other taxpayers in the community. The Academic Career Center lost a total of 5 employees this year that were not replaced. Another staff member was sent to the high school to teach at the end of her day at ACC. Our English teacher was there for limited class periods as she started her day at the high school coaching. While I recognize the importance of athletics for students, the purpose of the district is to educate students. As staff is not replaced on campuses around the district and class sizes increase, how can we possibly think it is fair for our teachers? We were denied renewing some of the programs that had a direct impact on our students' learning at ACC. Yet, we will have home and away football helmets. When is teaching and learning going to be the priority once again? We continue to be told that one of our major issues with our expenditures is the cost of legal services. I ask that you compare the cost of legal services in the last 2 years to those prior. We left 2 of the top firms in the state of Texas specializing in school law. Walsh Anderson and Belcher law firms are well respected statewide. We left these firms for an attorney in Laredo that does not specialize in school law. How are we possibly spending $40,000 a month on legal fees? The taxpayers of this district paid an enormous amount of money to put a beautiful culinary arts kitchen and classroom in the high school. Beautiful stainless steel prep tables, the best equipment, KitchenAid appliances, expensive culinary knife sets. A number of students were so excited about this program and the competitions that they could participate in at our high school. I am sure you can get the exact amount that was spent. Before it was even open for students' use, the program was eliminated. ACC asked for a table and some items. Since the program was terminated, we were told that the Vet Tech program was going to use these items. To my knowledge, those tables are still in that room. We got a few items, but someone needs to find out what happened to everything else that was in that room. What a waste of our money. And we wonder why we are facing the largest deficit in TM history. TM has always operated with a very lean central office staff. When Ms. Alderson left, a total of 4 people were hired to do her job, including contracted employees. These positions come with a hefty price tag. And even though we have more personnel, there is nothing to indicate the district is in that better shape. Why are these dollars not being put to use for the teachers in our district to ensure the most important people in our district are served? Those are our students. I assure you that even though I am no longer employed, I will continue to be involved. This is my home. And what happens at TM, I sincerely hope you find the answers to my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the budget workshop, presentation on revenue projections by Mr. Philip Carroll, Deputy Superintendent.
You should have that handout of the PowerPoint for you that have it on the screen too. Tonight we're going to talk about revenues, and just, as we said, preface before, very preliminary. Nothing is set in stone yet. Lots of things that still need to happen before we can start finalizing some of these numbers, but this is just to start talking about where we are. Okay, so basic revenue assumptions. We've already talked about some of these, but for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 23-24 information, which is a little bit higher than the 22-23 ADA data, and we're not going to project any growth. We're just going to use whatever this thing, I think we're gonna assume we've reached the floor, and the only way to go up, our attendance did go up this last year. Our enrollment dipped ever so slightly, but by the end of the year, we were finally back in the positive. But for now, we're using the lowest revenue estimate, which use the baseline is gonna be 23-24. Then what I talked about before, the formula transition grant has ended. So that means tax collections are gonna become really, really critical now, because now that we're out of formula transition, we're not guaranteed the $10,299 per ADA anymore. So we do have the potential now to earn more or less than that capped number based upon our ADA, which was always controlled the number, and then also our special programs like Career and Tech, Bilingual, all those special programs. If those numbers go up, we will generate more dollars. Whereas before, if they went up or down, it didn't help the bottom line. The only number that helped our bottom line before was the top one, total refined ADA.
I
So,
have a question.
yes, sir.
If I could ask a question.
Absolutely. Anytime you have a question.
Okay. When we looked at our ADA numbers, you had indicated that we were not conservative in 23, 24. We're probably a little more aggressive. So would it be, and I thought we'd said last time we were going to go back to being conservative. So if we're staying the same, doesn't that mean that we're, again, projecting aggressive numbers? Is that
Well,
correct?
I would say that what I was doing before, well, I'll admit what I did in 22, 23 was I assumed we were gonna bounce back to where we were gonna be. We didn't, and we had a deficit. And then, once again, though, it's like, well, yeah, we didn't bounce back as much as we thought, but I'm planning on attendance going up a little bit. We didn't hit that threshold again. But we do have evidence that we are back up. Attendance is up more than 2 percentage points.
Okay.
Even though enrollment did dip slightly during the year, by the end of the year, it was back above where we started. So that's where I guess I'm saying, that's where this is the floor.
Okay.
I see the trend, like, not gonna project any higher attendance, not gonna project any higher enrollment. We're gonna use the 23, 24 numbers.
Yeah,
So-
actuals.
Actuals,
Yes.
yes. And then, on revenue, our tax values are flat. I talked about that a little bit last time. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Right now, I'm using a 98% tax collection rate. And I'll show you how that can be critical when we do the calculations. And then, like I said, right now, because of what I said before, now that we're out of formula transition and the tax revenues are important, what's important now is, like with the state, the perfect situation is the state certifies that our appraisal district values are in line. The state certifies that the appraisal district is doing everything they can to make sure that the taxpayers pay their fair share. So we want that delta between state's comptroller's values and what the appraisal district says. We need those to be in line. Traditionally, though, certified values from the comptroller have been about $100 million more than what Nueces County says. So that difference is going to start affecting us now. The other one is with then if those values are pretty close to each other, then the state expects your collection rate to be at 100% to maximize your funding. So, like I said before, I could do it if I have a chance to do it in the next couple of weeks. I can go back to the county and see, but we've had so many weird years. Like last year, we got that. The year before, we got that lump sum from Flint Hills. This year, the collections were a little wonky because when they did the settlement with Flint Hills. I'd have to go back probably 3 or 4 more years to a year where we just had what I would call regular, steady tax collections to see what is our tax collection rate going to be for next year, because I'm hoping not to have a anomaly or a weird lump sum or a weird settlement or something. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, 2 things. One, I think it's imperative that we work closely with our tax assessor office come February, March, to get them on the ball to really collect taxes, because this formula transition grant is going away. Super important that we do that, and then make Kevin aware how imperative it is for our district. 2, can you run a formula on, I guess, Flint Hills, no tax increase rate, like no dollar increase, and see what percentage that were to put us at? Like whatever the value they paid at in this previous cycle, just put that number in, because I'm assuming their appraisal value went up. But whatever the last year rate was
Whatever
that
they-
they paid to,
What they agreed to.
yes, and then what percentage?
90%?
No, that was for the sell-up for the 4 years. I don't remember hearing, well, it could have been. I can't remember what the percentage was, because they just settled tax year '23, which was this fiscal year that's just getting ready to
Yeah.
begin.
Do you know what they
settled-
settled with Valero for? Because that's a good indication of what they will.
I do not, but I did text Mr. Canales to say, where's Flint Hills? They haven't started negotiations with Flint. I thought they already had, but he's gonna keep me updated.
And I say that because not the percentage, but the actual dollar amount.
Right.
And then where that puts us, because I did have conversations with Valero on, like, future legislation should be, companies can pay that dollar amount without having it affect like lawsuits and stuff.
Right.
And then you just fight on the difference. So I just wanted to know where we sit with that.
Right. They'll hopefully keep us informed. I'm hoping that they settle with Flint Hills before the July
Yeah.
certified values come out. Because if they're sticking to their story that Flint Hills wants to be treated just like Valero, they finished their negotiations with Valero, so now they're gonna start and hopefully do the same thing for Flint Hills, so we'll know. But I'll definitely can find out what their final adjusted values, agreed to values for last tax year were, and then see how they change. But I'm going back to previous, go back plus 5 years before House Bill 3 and formula transition started. All I can go is right now is, before then, the first 7-8 years I was here, I always used 98% collection rate, and I never had an issue with that. So, but because it's not 100%, and the way the formula works now is, if you're not collecting 100% of what the state thinks you should be collecting, they don't make up the difference anymore. So, just for an example, just using the current numbers that we have now, which right now they're even lower than what they need to be, and I'll explain that later. But we're already off $136 per ADA. Like right now, if all these numbers that I'm saying are still up in the air, if they wound up being actually true, we're actually going to get less funding per student next year. You know, obviously, if the numbers go up, we'll get more funding, but our per funding per student is actually dropping. So that's how the formula works sometimes. If those three factors, I call it the planets aligning, if you're certified and your appraisal district values are off, and if your collections are off, you lose money per student. You just have less money. And then, let's talk about the ADA numbers. We do currently still have incomplete, unverified ADA numbers for 23-24. We're working fast and furious on those, because we've got a summer submission where we've got to get that data to TEA, because that's going to determine the settle-up funding for this year that just ended. But just remember, since we're off formula transition, all these numbers are going to, once we get these good numbers and verify these better numbers and what we use to project for 24-25, right now, the optional flex day ADA for ACC and Compass Academy is not in our number yet, so we know our ADA is going to be higher. So already, I know we're going to generate some more money, but until we get those numbers verified, and I guess the story of, I'm going to paint the worst possible picture of things, and then as we start solidifying numbers and we start doing things, hopefully things will look better. I'm exaggerating here, but I'd rather say we're $12 million in the hole, and if we wind up being one, we look like we really came out great. So I'm gonna start at, what's this lowest, estimating lowest revenues and highest expenditures, what does that look like? And then we're gonna do our steps and try to mitigate that and try to get that down as close as we can. to something that's more reasonable or something that's more palatable, that we can live with and protect our fund balance and our sustainability.
Philip, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the ADA for ACC and the Compass Academy, is that calculated differently?
Yes, it's in Power School, it's like it's a separate campus, and so they're still working out some of the kinks of setting up that separate parameter so that attendance will get calculated correctly. So right now, those numbers are not in any ADA number that I have available, and I'm not gonna guess or speculate until I get good numbers.
And that's due to Power School?
It's
Issues,
due to
or-
Power School, it's due to this new way, this flexible day program. It's new, we're working out the kinks of getting this thing set up the right way so the data will generate correctly.
Okay.
And-
Philip, let me ask a question that's not rhetorical. And Dr. White, you can enter into this. The revenue that you're projecting, that is the allotment from CTE, is still 22, 23 data?
No, I did get 10 o'clock Saturday night, I did get some updated numbers. I don't think they're 100% updated, but I did get more closer, 23, 24.
Because the 22, 23 numbers are light years behind.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
And particularly with level 4 and 5s.
yes.
Can you comment on that, Dr. White?
Yes, since we've added so many more courses and expanded our dual credit program into what we now call the Warpath Academy, we should see our numbers at each of those levels almost double, which is what we have on our numbers, and we're just needing to confirm with our system so that everything aligns. But that's the direction, that's the projection, that's what we understand, and that's where it's all going. We just need to finalize it.
That's real-time revenue though, or that, like, does that lag?
Well, you know, here's the thing, unfortunately, these are 23, 24 numbers. So unfortunately, the only number that's gonna give us more money, more $10,299 per kid is the very top number. And the optional flex day and the Compass Academy, ADA, that will increase the pie, and that'll give us more money. The career and technology increases, it'll make career and technology have a bigger piece of the pie, but that will actually not increase the pie for 23, 24. But
But it will for
projecting-
24,
But in
25.
projecting for 24, 25, they will. And so what we're waiting on now is, we're waiting to get the data out of eSchool and get it into our other program called On Data Suite, so we can print reports out, and then we can have our CTE people and our bilingual people and all our people start verifying that, yes, these numbers look right, these students look right, these course the weights are already in there, but I mean, we just haven't got to the verification, but we will, because
We're
we've
supposed
got
to get there tomorrow.
We've got a summer submission that's due in a couple of weeks, so we've got to get this stuff verified. Right now, we've got fatal-free. We just need to verify that our data is accurate, and that's the most important thing.
And you're, with a high level of confidence, assured that it's not.
Yes, because what it's pulling in the system now, I can tell, hey, we're supposed to get a little bit extra money for our Spanish learners in our dual language class. Right now, it's only counting 6 of them, but we know there's 20 kids in there. It's only picking up attendance for 6 of them. So I know I'm missing attendance for about 15,
Yeah.
16 kids. So we're trying to figure out.
At a weighted amount.
At a weighted amount, so that generates some more money, but that number's not in there yet. But I'm using the number of what I have. I'm using the low numbers that I have, just so we can start with a baseline. And yes, I'm painting maybe a negative picture here, but this is the bottom.
Well,
I
that's
know
where
it's
we
gonna
are
grow.
right now, though,
Right.
because we don't know the other numbers.
Right.
Well, why are those numbers not in there yet?
I'll just tell you that whoever developed the career and technology funding system is a sadist, and they made it the most complicated thing in the world. I will tell you that this is the first time we've had the dual language program, so this is the first time that we've had to go make sure we've checked every box in the right place so that it accurately picks up those kids as either English learners or Spanish learners in a dual language program, because that comes with more weight, that comes with more funding. So there's a utility that was broke, we're fixing the utility, and we're really, really close, because we've been working on this for I say we, I've just been sitting, waiting. Other people have been working on this for 2 weeks. And so we're getting the utility fixed, we're getting it done, and now we can really start verifying. But for 24, 25, these numbers that we know they're gonna go up. For right now, we're pretending that they're not gonna go up. But that's why I'm saying 23, 24 is a good base year, because we know dual enrollment's gonna go up next year because we're adding 2 second-grade classes. We know career and tech is gonna go up because we're adding so many more courses. And then we know we only did the flex day for 1 semester this year. Next year, we'll do the flex day for the whole year. So we know there's only one place to go but up. So, but for 24, 25, now these numbers, they will give us more money. They will generate more funding. And just to give you an example, and I'll get to that slide, and then let's just talk about tax revenues and values real quick. Like I said, I'm going to the last bullet. Everything will get finalized when I get the certified values in July. But until then, I am making some assumptions. I'm going to say the worst case scenario, or what's going to happen. I am assuming a $500 million reduction for Flint Hills. That's approximately what they agreed to this last year. I'm assuming it might be similar to that, but that'll come out. Like I said before, CC Polymers is going back on the books. Their tax abatement ends. $500.6 million is going back on the M&O side. So I'm saying those two are, right now, I'm assuming they're going to cancel each other out, and our values are actually going to stay a little bit flat. Due to the flat tax values that I'm guesstimating right now, our Tier 1 rate, which is what the state determines, that's where the compression kicks in. Since they're pretty flat, we don't have this exponential growth, we're not going to be pushed to what the state calls the floor, which is if your values go up exponentially, you got to compress to the lowest possible one. I don't think we're going to get down there yet, but right now I'm calculating that we're at the floor. But I don't think we're going to be there. We'll see how that comes out, but we'll know that when we get the certified values. Like I said, state certified values are historically about $100 million more than what the appraisal district says. And that's what I use, that's what TASBO and that's what everybody says. I'm also trying to guesstimate what the comptroller's certified values are gonna be for this tax year. And so all I can do is go back and look at the relationship that the state and the county have always had, and I'm like, I'm expecting hope. All I can do is go with the trend. So I take the last 5 years of certified values and Nueces County values, and I track that trend and just assume that the trend's gonna continue. That's all I can do, trying to predict what this comptroller is gonna say our values are versus what the appraisal district says. And like, once again, once we get to July 25th, those numbers will solidify and we'll get back to it. And then just talking about the current cause and effect. Obviously, if any of these numbers change, any of these variables change, some of these numbers are also gonna change. But right now, with the numbers I'm putting in there, the current 23, 24 numbers that I have, projecting for 24, 25, an increase of 188 is only gonna generate an additional $7,800. So now, look, we're already off the $10,299 rate that we were on before. Just kind of showing you how the collection rate, the numbers I'm gonna show you were at 98%. But if I go in and say we collect 98% of taxes, that generates an extra $312,000 bottom line that we get to keep. Tax money, with more tax money coming in, and less recapture, and we get a little more state money. But vice versa, if the tax rate drops to 97, boom, it wipes $313,000 goes away.
That's
And so
clear.
you,
So
and so you
we're
see
all-
the relationship, it's not even the exact same number. The lower we get, 96, it's gonna drop more than another 313. It's gonna drop a little bit more. It's like, things get worse as your tax revenues go down, things get exponentially worse as they go up. Now, it is possible for us to collect 100% or even 101% if we've got a delinquent taxpayer from a previous year that pays this year. That could, and everybody pays this year, it is possible that we could go over 100%. I'm not predicting that's gonna happen, but it is possible to collect more than 100% when you get a previous delinquent taxpayer paying in the current year. And then, like I said, the variables on the collection rate, I mean, everything's variable. The certified values from the appraisal district, the tax rate, which is gonna get determined by TEA, and once again, once we get the certified values, I think I've got like 5 days to put them submit them to TEA, so TEA can turn around and tell me, well, this is what your tier 1 tax rate is, and then we add our voter-approved TRE pennies on top of that to get to our total tax rate. And then, of course, the actual collections. And going about that, I get an email from the tax assessor collector every day of how much money we're getting M&O and INS. I have a spreadsheet, I track it. We're gonna know, the last paid penalty free is January 31st. We get a lot of people wait till the end of January to pay. By the middle of February, I'm gonna pretty well know what our collection rate is for the year. So that answer will be known by the middle of February, what our tax collections are gonna be. And just to kind of show you, I was putting in the formula to say, if I increase one ADA or one student or one count for these programs, I just went and changed that one indicator just to show how much more money it would drop into the bottom. So like on a career in technology tier 3, which is the level 3 and 4 courses, which these are like the apprenticeship, these are like the capstone courses, which have the most weight. If I increase that one full FTE and don't change anything else, it gave us $3,664. That's how much so I'm gonna say that's, I don't know. It also has to do with how many courses they take and things like that, but I just increased it 1.0, and that's how much more I needed. Then going back, then just increasing a tier 2, which is level 1 and 2, which could be an intro course or the beginning courses on a pathway. That only increased it $2,182. That means everything else. So you can just go down and see, I just increased 1.0 each one of these indicators, and it shows how much additional income it generated. The biggest one, obviously, special ed self-contained. If that went up, we get an extra almost $15,500, because that is a heavily weighted ADA measure.
What does it mean, self-contained?
Self-contained means like either an adaptive aid unit where
They don't leave the room.
They don't leave the room.
They don't change classes, see.
Yeah. So, and so you see, like, some of them are identical, like even an early education, which is, that's our economically disadvantaged K through 3rd graders. We get the early education funding for that. It's exactly the same as dyslexia. If you add 1.0 to it, it gets you another $744. And like I said, this is based on current assumptions. Here's the thing, if our tax collection rate changes, or if our certified values change, any of those other ratios change, if I go and do the 1+ on another thing, these values are gonna change slightly. We will, and that's what I'm telling school funding, until you get to the end, then I can tell you, well, at the end, we got this much for every career in tech and this much, but for now, they're all subject to changing depending upon in these other situations.
So how are you factoring that into budgeting for 24-25?
Right now, these are the hard, scary numbers right here. We've got our base budget from last year, which I went back to the base budget. Yes, we went up to 3.2 because we put in the SHARS shortfall for last year. But if I go back to the base budget from the beginning of last year, 2.7 deficit. Now, tonight, we're only talking about revenues. We're not talking about expenditures. But compared to that, the base budget revenues from 23-24, on the numbers we have now, which they will go up, but we're not going to project anything higher than what our final verified 23-24 numbers are. At 98% collection, at my estimated certified values, and my estimated tax collections, based upon the preliminary tax values that I've received from the appraisal district, property taxes budget has to go down over $700,000 from the base budget from last year. State revenues go down almost $1 million. I'm having to backtrack off investment earnings. We didn't quite earn $1 million this last year, and we're not gonna quite earn $1 million. But that's also because our fund balance is dropping, so the amount of money we have to invest all during the year is gonna drop too. Rates are still hanging in there pretty good, but we're just gonna have less to invest. So I'm like I said, on revenues, we're gonna go low, because then that way there's only one place to go, is up. So I'm saying I gotta knock off 200,000, estimate hopefully we'll collect about 800,000 in revenue, for investments. Yes, sir.
Just say something. I want to kind of caution you that I don't know that it's real good to paint such a bleak picture that we're going to alarm ourselves more than necessary and it affect our programming. And as we see changes, I know we have a tendency to wait for budget amendments, down the road. I'd like to see it change immediately when we know that information, because the last thing we want is for everybody to not be clued in.
Right.
You might know it because you're in the thick of things, but we need to be informed so that if we need to change those numbers, and show that we're moving in a better direction, that we.
Well, I can definitely tell you, unfortunately, the property taxes, of course, once we get our certified values, I have a pretty good idea on that, and I can keep y'all up to date on that, because I track that daily, and we'll know where we stand in February. State revenues, though, until we submit our final ADA at the end of the summer, I can only do what our system tells and estimate and settle up for that. And as soon as I get those, I can do that. Investment earnings, you'll see that every month on the monthly report. So, because if you look at it right now, that's where I can tell you, I'm gonna get real close to the $1 million this year, but I'm not gonna hit it, because I've still got a couple of more months of expenditures. I'm not gonna get another TEA payment until September. So, because actually, I might get a check next month because of the way it worked this year with Flint Hills settlement and my tax revenues being so low. I am gonna get some more state revenue, because the state has overpaid us the last 2 years. So what they've done is, they haven't made me write them a check. They just said, we're gonna withhold it from what you earn the next year. And so I'd originally budgeted that we were gonna earn $4 million. We're gonna get about over $7 million of state revenue because our taxes dropped. So now I probably will get a check in August, because now I'm finally back in the black. Those carryovers from what they overpaid me 2 years ago, they're gonna go ahead and make me whole now, because now I've earned some more state revenue. So I'll know that. But definitely much more cognizant of what the effect of everything is every month.
And that check, you're expecting that to be here before we have to approve the budget?
I'm not sure if I'll get the settlement in August. I'm pretty sure I'll get it in September, the settlement in September, because
I've seen it come in October.
October. It might not be till October, but I will. They do owe me. They're gonna finally owe me some money after the last 2 overpayments.
It'll show in the audit.
Yeah, because I'll definitely recognize the income in the audit. Regardless of when I get the money, it's counted as revenue in this fiscal year, because we earned it this year. Yes, ma'am.
Previously, we've been sending about $500,000 back to the state in recapture. If we're short, I guess, $700,000 on property taxes, does that come at the end? Or how does that work?
Well-
Or is their state still gonna say, hey, TM, you still need to send us the $500,000, I don't care if you didn't collect it?
Yeah, because right now, with the current numbers, today we're only talking about revenues. When we talk about expenditures next meeting, you'll see, I can tell you, for right now, with the numbers that are in there now, we're still at about $1 million recapture. Because it's just this weird relationship between whenever it looks at your values to your appraisal district values, whenever it looks at your collection rate, and then it looks at your ADA numbers, it wraps that all up, it looks at what you collected, then it's gonna come up with that number of what you're guaranteed, the state's gonna kick in some, and then they're gonna kick, and then if it's still more than what you're supposed to get, then your recapture is gonna make up the difference. So you really, it's those three numbers, tax revenues, state revenues, and the recapture. You add those three numbers together, that's the number, somehow they calculate, that's all you're gonna get. They look at your taxes, they look at what you're eligible to get in state revenue, and if that's too much, they take it back from you in recapture. So you have to look at all three numbers, but
But if we didn't make enough to get to our certified values, they
right.
still take that?
Right now, with all the numbers that I've got in, we still got about $1 million in recapture.
When is the budget? When do we have to, is it August or September?
We have to have it adopted before the end of August.
Before the end of August. So when are you gonna have us a complete package of
I think
everything?
we'll have another workshop on July the 15th at the regular board meeting, and that's where we'll go into expenditures. And you'll see the whole big picture with revenue projections and expenditures. But by that time, hopefully some of these numbers will be more solidified. We won't have the certified values yet, but you'll see the whole picture on July the 15th. And then we'll get the certified values at the end of July. I anticipate us having another workshop at the beginning of August. And that'll probably, by that one, at the beginning of August, that's when we will know. I would have told the state what our values are. They're gonna come back and tell me what our tier 1 tax rate is, so we'll know what our tax rate is. I'll already know, I can already start calculating what my INS rate is to make my bond payments. And we'll pretty much be, things will be a lot more settled then.
So at that
We'll have
point, we have
another
to-
workshop at the
yeah.
beginning of August, and if things, and then we'll be meeting about what we have to do, possible cuts or whatever we have to do to reduce expenditures. We'll, best case scenarios, we adopt the budget at the regular board meeting. I think it's like August I want to say the 17th or something like that. And if not, we have another week, another Monday after that to adopt it, and that's the absolute latest. And I'll have to figure that all out, because remember, I got to put the notice in the paper at least 10 days before we have the public hearing and before we do everything. So I got to work that out, so I got to have all my stuff ready for the legal notice, so we can get the 10-day notice in the paper before we do that, so. And then, just talking about revenues, right now, and this could change too, because we're still appealing the Max Shars thing. Now, there's a big chunk of the Max Shars thing we're never gonna get back, because the state is feuding with the feds about how we were calculating the money that we were getting with random moment time studies, but we're just not gonna go into that. But there is, the appeal that we do have going on right now is, our argument is, what the state of Texas did was, they applied a new statute that hadn't gone into effect to this last year. And so we're arguing is, you can't apply that new statute that's not in effect yet to these numbers. So there is a possibility that we could see, we're fighting it, and we're gonna try to get some more money back from that appeal from last year. But let's go to next year. I already know what my settlement payment is. We'd already calculated everything, because Shars is always like 2 years behind. So the money I'm supposed to get next spring, I already know what that number is based upon the old rules, based upon the random moment time studies and the way we've been being funded the whole time I've been here. We know what that number is. It's 800,000. But based upon the new rules, what our third party is telling us, we're actually gonna only get about 400,000, and that's the number that I'm using to budget. And it's still less, so that's why I'm saying I gotta cut the Mac and Shars about 133,000. Because I'm counting on my third party provider to accurately tell me with the new funding structure, how the state of Texas is changing their rules to satisfy the federal government, that this is what we're, but it's still, I'm being conservative. It's like, this is my best guess. I gotta lower the Max Shars budget. I don't have to cut it to 500,000 like we had to this year, but this is what I'm cutting it now. And if I get more data in the next 6 weeks, I will definitely adjust that to reflect that. Indirect costs, we still had a little bit of indirect costs coming to the general fund this year from the spending the last of the ESSER money. That is gone. We're not gonna have any more indirect costs from the ESSER. Now, I will throw in here, once we look at all the other federal budgets, we We may consider charging some indirect costs from some of the other federal budgets, and that would put some money back in the general fund. But we're gonna review the federal funds one by one to determine if we're gonna do that. But for now, that 50,000 that was in the budget, now we got that from ESSER money last year. ESSER's gone, we're not gonna get it, so I'm reducing it. So right now, based upon base budget revenues, I'm projecting we're already $2 million less than what we were last year. But keep in mind, all those assumptions that I told you.
You're
I
as low
don't
as
have
you
all the
can go.
numbers. We're at the floor. I know the floor is gonna go up a little bit, and that's the numbers we're gonna use for 24, 25. But I'm optimistic that the actual 24, 25 numbers, they're only gonna go up because of the programs we're offering, because of what we're adding, 2 more classrooms of dual language, because of what we're doing. Because we're seeing that trend back up. Hopefully attendance will keep creeping up. But right now, I'm not gonna guarantee it. I'm gonna hope that we stick to where we're going. So the last 2 years, overly optimistic. We're not gonna do that again. We have to readjust. We have to have an adjustment year. We actually have to maybe live below our means for 1 more year until we get a new session and we get a new biennium and see what happens there. But one thing I don't want to sound too dismal, but the reality is, if the state does give us more money, I know I've said this before, they might give us money for teachers, for raises, that money's gonna go, if that money comes in, it'll be nice, we'll get more money, but we're gonna turn around and put it in salaries. They're not gonna give us more money to pay for our insurance. They're not gonna give us more money to pay for electricity. They're not gonna give us more money to pay for all the other indirect costs that we have. So that's why we just can't count on the next legislature is just gonna make everything better. So that's why we kind of have like kind of a readjustment year this year.
What
I say,
would impact those variables if the basic allotment
yes,
would
Yes.
increase?
The base-
And I don't know if you all went to any sessions, but we're not gonna get what the governor put, or who was the representative that had the last bill for it was like a $1,500 increase in the basic allotment. And I think the governor would have signed off on that if they would have passed vouchers.
yes.
They're gonna pass vouchers now, but we're not gonna get that increase in the basic allotment. I'm hearing 500. I don't know what you all are hearing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a number, but when they did ask how many schools at the convention were in a deficit, most of the hands in the room went up, so.
Over 75%.
Yeah.
75%.
So planning considerations, these are the tiny little, there
Oh,
are.
sorry,
there are
I did
some
have a
that-
question. So that puts us at around 38 million in revenue?
Right.
Okay.
Program ADA increases will reduce the deficit. You know, we will, ADA going up, obviously will reduce the deficit. So career tech going up, dual language going up, any of the other programs that we're doing going up, we will generate more money versus the last 5 years where program increases didn't affect the bottom line. Only total refined ADA did. So that, of course, now, here's the other really, hopefully, positive thing we can look forward to. There's a potential Senate Bill 2 feature that could possibly let us increase our revenues for the foreseeable future, for 24, 25 and beyond. And it's a new hold harmless feature. And when it first came out in one of these special sessions last year, TA still had to figure out how to implement it and how to make it work. Because I can tell you right now, it's not in Omar's template yet, to where you can put some data in there and maybe figure out how it's gonna help you. But we are looking at, because we got that huge lump sum payment from Flint Hills back in August, that was actually for that year and 3 previous years, they're saying that there is a way that if we could go and appeal to TA and say, let's not pretend that we got all that money in 1 year. Let's pretend that we actually would have gotten it in the year that we received it. that might not, in itself might not give us some more money, but that will reset our, what I call our baseline for 23, 24, which when we do calculations for 24, 25, it means we'll have a higher threshold that we need to be held harmless to, so that will mean additional funding to help us. And that, until they change that criteria of that Senate Bill 2, that hold harmless will help us in future years. So right now, we're starting consultation with Mo Casey. We're giving them the numbers. I'm giving them the exact number that we got last August and which year it applied to. So if we go back and basically get TEA to redo everything for the last 4 years to get our new baseline to see if it will give us potential increases. They're throwing out numbers like $1 million, but we got a lot of numbers to crunch. I've already requested the information from the tax assessor collector about exactly which years. They've asked for some information from the appraisal district of what, so there's also two things. We're gonna go back and we have to work with our auditors to go adjust the J1 schedule, which is the schedule that shows your tax collections. Because the tax collection in your J1 schedule, that's the number that after your audit's done, that's the number that goes into the summary of finance and determines exactly how much settle up, what we've actually earned this year. So if we go adjust that, appeal to TEA to do that adjustment to get us in the right position, and then we need to look at that if it's worth appealing to TEA about, well, we need our certified values adjusted. We need an audit of our certified values to see if that will generate us more revenue. So we started that process. We're definitely pursuing that to the fullest extent. We're just getting going on that. But that is something that hopefully in the end that will benefit us.
The term that was used today was, this is fairly routine for TEA to adjust this. When I hear the word appeal, I think long shot, but that's not what I'm hearing.
Right, no. This is apparently what happened to us. It's not unusual for a district, well, I think it is unusual, but there are other districts out there like that have a significantly large taxpayer, that one transaction from that taxpayer can make or break them. So they've got this system in there that, okay, we can do this other thing for you that will benefit you. So that's what we're obviously fully pursuing, that to see if we can get any benefit, and especially a long-lasting benefit to take advantage of this hold harmless provision. We just got to get set up to where we're eligible to get that in future years. And then, of course, we're going to look at the talk 100% today was only about the general fund, which is one of the 3 funds that you have to adopt. Obviously, we're going to look at our federal revenue income, the money we're going to get from our Title I funds, our special ed federal funds, our other funds that we have going on. We're going to look at that. They're going to do their needs assessment. We're going to see what we need to spend that money on, the positions that we're going to pay for out of federal funds, and see if there's, what we can do. I mean, there's a potential that a federal fund could pick up a position that we have in the general fund, so we can save that money in the general fund if the federal fund can do it. But we need to look at everything. So that could have an impact on the general fund once we determine what's going on with our other, and we also have some other state funds that we have. So we're gonna look at those over the next 6 weeks to determine where we stand on those. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say, we can also maybe add how I talked about once February, March comes on saying, okay, who hasn't paid taxes, let's go get that. We could probably even start being proactive now on who hasn't paid taxes already.
Right.
With the tax assessor office, so they can start those lawsuits now, so by the time we get to February of next year, hopefully we have collected any back taxes from this current year.
Right.
That would help us a ton as well. Do we already have a personal law firm that helps us with that? Or it's just
We do have, I guess, Linebarger, or they pretty much, they help us when something's going to foreclosure or something and it has to
I've
be auctioned.
not seen any of that in the
Yeah,
2
we
years
haven't,
I've
I don't
been
think, we
here.
haven't had
seen
any
one thing.
properties like that. They usually, some properties will come up for auction and they'll come out and we have to do some stuff for that, but Yeah, they haven't been out here since you've been here, right?
No, they haven't.
They haven't.
Yeah, I think it's important, yeah, because we can start pushing that now of anyone who has back taxes for collections. That would only help us come February.
Okay, just last note, just a real quick about, obviously, I'm planning for 24, 25, but I'm also really diving in to try to guesstimate how 23, 24 is gonna end up. So, here's the thing, the 23, 24 budget, we were in such, shortfall, unfortunately, what I did over the weekend was just a real quick down and dirty, trying to project payroll through August, what we've got encumbered, what our expenses are. There's some expenses that aren't in the, there's some expenses that aren't in the financials yet, because like we've got a debt service payment on a maintenance tax note that we don't pay until August the 15th. So that's not gonna show up yet. It looks like we've got this big chunk of money that we haven't spent. It's already spent, we just haven't spent it yet. So I started deducting things and then recapture. Right now, it looks like we're still gonna have $1 million, or I think it's gone down to about 900,000. I need to go ahead and deduct recapture for the year based on what I think it's gonna be. And then what we've already got encumbered, here's the thing. I probably overprojected payroll, so I'm pretty sure this $3.3 million number is not gonna stick, because I'm hoping that everything we have encumbered is not gonna every penny's not gonna be spent. If there are some expenses that haven't been encumbered yet, they're gonna be less than what gets freed up. And I probably overestimated payroll a little bit, because we do have seasonal payroll, because right now, we don't have bus drivers right now, we don't have subs right now, so I've gotta adjust for that, knowing I still gotta pay for 6 weeks of subs when we come back to school in July and August. Still gotta pay us 6 weeks of bus drivers. Custodial staff are here all year, grounds are here all year, but trying to project, where we're gonna be. So, once again, this is like worst case scenario, and where we are is because, we didn't hit the attendance threshold that I budgeted for. But also, I'm using numbers for 23, 24 that I know are not there yet. They're not full numbers. Most of them are there, but I know I'm missing flex ADA. So revenue is gonna go up once we get our ADA for 23, 24 situated with the flexible program. But right now, that's looking about that shortfall from the attendance and the slight dip in enrollment that happened during the beginning of the year. That's $1 million off the revenue. Investment income, I think it's gonna be about $88,000, almost $89,000 short. And we're a little short on print shop revenue right now. That was the biggest other variance. When I looked at all the other revenues in the general fund, and all the other revenues in the general fund are, minuscule compared to tax revenues and state revenue, and even some of the federal revenues. But that's where we are. But once again, I'm saying, I'm here at the max. I'm hoping that when the dust settles, the actual deficit for 23, 24 is less.
So, right, you're saying it's not 2.7, it's 3.3?
Well, remember, the original adopted budget was 2.7, but then the SHARS fund shortage pushed us up to the 3.2. And I think I rounded it up to 3.3, but I know we're gonna get more revenue when we get our final ADA numbers.
Yeah, it was like $600 over 3.2 in the
And so,
packet.
and I was not super aggressive, but I took some payroll that, I was real good about the subs, but, I took some payrolls that still had bus drivers and extrapolated it out for the rest of the summer and the rest of the year. So I might have, overestimated the payroll, so that will help bring that number down. But that's where we are on revenues. So just like we were talking a little bit about the calendar, when we come back for our regular meeting on July the 15th, then we'll start talking about expenditures. And then obviously, if I've got some updates on the revenue, I'll talk about that real quick too, so we can see, sort of like Mr. Benavides, like you said, the total picture. We'll have both sides, revenue and expenditures, and where we stand on some of these numbers, getting a little more solid, a little more, hey,
I think this is really closer to what the number's gonna be. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Philip, I just want to say this. I can't remember when you've had a day off. You've done a really good job of trying your best to give as accurate a projection as you can on the budget.
Trying.
I appreciate it. I think I was going to say that earlier too, but that's exactly right. You've done a good job. The picture is what it is, but it's just a picture. We still got some things we're doing to fix it. So
Absolutely.
you got to stay positive. We got to figure out, the negativity and yes, it's a big number, but our job is to stay positive and figure out how we're going to fix it.
Well,
So
here's something that I have to keep this in mind, and it's an accounting term, but it's we're going concern. We're going to start school on
July
whatever
17th.
We're going to start school, and we're going to do.
There's going to be
we're gonna do-
smiles on
we're gonna do
people's
what we do.
faces.
So we just got to figure everything out and keep moving forward.
Well, and you can only do so much when you don't have specific numbers.
Yeah.
And so you're just giving us a prediction right now.
Right.
And what I think is really important to go along with Mr. Gonzalez, what you alluded to, is two of the three main variables, ADA enrollment. I don't know what we can do with tax collection other than follow Denise's advices. For the first time in a decade, are now going up. And now they're not going up as fast as we want because we've got to do something about primary hemorrhaging. But people want to be at our middle school and our high school.
Yes.
Well, we keep saying that they're going up. Do we know the percentage from this year to last year? I mean, what did they go up?
I
How much did they go
don't,
up?
I don't want to tell you that until we get some good verified numbers. Because right now, I'm not, we're not playing with, I know we're not totally accurate. I know there's numbers that aren't in there that are going to affect. I know we know all the Flex 88 is not in our number yet, and that's going to generate more. And so until we get that straightened out, but then definitely when I get the final numbers, yeah, I can tell you. But we can tell you, when you get into percentages, we were at 91% attendance the year before. We got right up at 93, right? 92 point
Yeah, it's
something.
like 90.5, like low 90.
And we still have a couple of waiver days that we're asking for.
Yeah. Those will be brought to you all in July.
So that's going up.
We
And then
can
I
ask
think
for a few
actual
days.
enrollment is like 39, 41 kids overall.
Yeah.
Not significant numbers, but it's going up.
Yeah, we're not talking about, it's not gonna break the bank, but there's a couple of days that we're gonna get one full attendance because of, we had, low attendance because of some circumstance. We can go back and say, they grant us the waiver, we can go back and say, we had 100% attendance those days, so we can get a little bit of ADA back.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Philip.
Philip.
Very good.
No, I'm sorry.
All right, moving on to discussion action items number 1, discuss and consider renewal of the annual financial audit services contract.
Madam President, members of the board, this is an annual action that Mr. Carroll is going to address with you.
Yes, what we do annually, this is the engagement letter from our auditors. And tonight I'm just asking us to approve that again so they can start working on our fiscal year 24 audit. That will be done before Christmas.
I really appreciated them on such short notice, Friday to today, being available to get on a call with us and Mo Casey over the Senate Bill 2.
Yeah, because the auditors are the ones that are responsible for auditing our tax collections and submitting them to TEA through our audit. So they have to be involved when we make the correction or the amend the J1 schedules to pretend that we got that money in the tax year that it was applicable to. The auditors are the ones that have to do that for us. They have to go in and approve, they have to go make the adjustments once we get the data from
county, and they're the ones that have to go into, the TA will have to open it up again so they can submit the new J, the tax collection numbers. So
And that's the appeal that you're talking about?
that's the appeal.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the appeal and the exploration of getting us qualified for the hold harmless for 24-25.
Okay.
But tonight, we're just asking for, let's go ahead and approve engaging Laverne and Kieschnick to do our fiscal year 24 audit.
Any questions? Janie, you good?
Good.
Madam President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the engagement letter for Laverne and Kieschnick LLP for audit services for the fiscal year ending August 31, 2024, in the amount of $35,500 be approved as presented.
Do I have a motion? Leo made the motion. Do I have a second? Paul made the second. I have a motion and a second by Leo and Paul. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2, discuss and consider the 2024-2025 teacher salary schedule.
Mr. Carroll, I think this is your last one.
Yes.
Was this hard?
I know.
What we're doing today is we're basically readopting the current schedule. It doesn't have any increases per se, but by adopting the schedule, readopting it, we're basically telling the teachers, you will get your step. So if you were on step 5 last year, now you're going to get whatever the salary is on step 6, and so on and so on. And the cost of the step, I took the amount of the people that are on the teacher salary scale, that's all the teachers, librarians, counselors, and RNs. I can't remember the exact number, but I just took the current ones that we have, what the delta is between the step that they're on now and what the step they're gonna go to. And it's about $129,000 what the step cost. But it's not much. The delta in most steps is $447. There are a couple of steps that have bigger variances, but that's what we're asking tonight. It's what we traditionally do in June. So we're basically saying teachers are gonna get their step. And I would say the teachers are our biggest group of employees.
That's important too.
Any questions?
And then just like we said, if some miracle, anything else happens, everybody, depending on when it happens, everybody's made whole whenever it happens. But this way, the teachers know what they're gonna get their first check. All the teachers that start the new year, they're gonna get their first check for the new year in August. They'll know what their salary is, at least for the month of August. They're gonna get 1/12 of their new step.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, it is recommended the Board of Trustees approve the 24-25 teacher salary schedule as presented.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the administration's recommendations, the Board of Trustees approves the 2024-2025 teacher salary schedule as presented.
Do I have a second? I have a motion made by Paul and a second by Ben for the approval of the 24-25 teacher salary schedule. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to number 3, report on TM employee survey results.
Ms. Riggs?
Good evening, Madam President Boone, Mr. Van Matry, and Board of Trustees. This is part of our strategic plan and goal number 5 that says that by the end of our school year 27-28, 90% of our staff will respond positively when we give them an engagement survey that they're happy with their position within the district. So this year, we did a faculty and staff engagement survey. It's our very first year of doing it, so this was our baseline data. So I just kind of wanted to start with what is an engagement survey. So it's a survey designed to measure how motivated our staff is to come to work every day to do their job. And it gives us, administration, the ability to identify weaknesses or areas of opportunity, really. It gives our employees an opportunity to provide a voice, tell us how we're doing. It allows us to create change, to hold ourselves accountable, and to build trust with our employees. But for this first year, the biggest part of this employee was that this survey was that it was going to provide baseline data to see where our staff currently is. So we created a survey. It was distributed to staff via email on May 9th. Staff had until May 17th to respond. It was created in Google Forms. The survey was confidential versus anonymous, and it required a validity check. So why was it confidential versus anonymous? Well, because this is data that we're going to try to track every year. So we want to make sure that our current employees are the ones that are responding. We want to make sure that employees only respond one time, so that next year when we do this again, we're getting our current employees, they only responded one time, and that we're tracking the data accurately each year. So who has access to the data? I am the only one in the district right now, well, I'm the only one in the district who has this data and who will have the data. It's very important that we maintain that confidentiality because we want our employees to feel comfortable. We want our employees to continue responding each year because it's very important that we assess how our employees feel about their job, how they feel about the district, because we want them to be successful, we want them to be happy. So at the end of the established deadline on May 17th, I cut it off at 5 o'clock. I said I was going to cut it off at 4, but I didn't get to it till 5. We had 110 responses, which I think is a really good response. It's about 25% for that first year. I think it's a really great response rate.
25% of total staff, never mind, I can decipher my question off of the percentages.
So I did ask for some identifying information. Again, this information's I only have access to, but I put it all into a pie chart. So the biggest respondents I asked, tell us what campus you're from, what department you work in. So we had a tie between intermediate and high school. About 25%, 24.5% of the employees or of the respondents were from those two campuses, followed by primary, middle school, and then central admin. I asked, what position do you hold within the district? The majority of the respondents were teachers, followed by education specialists. So what does that mean? That's usually like our support staff, our professional support staff, our DIAGs, instructional facilitators, counselors, nurses. They responded 12.7%, followed by support staff, which is our paraprofessionals, clerical staff. I asked, how many years have you worked for the district? We got a great range. That pie looks like it's cut almost evenly. Majority of the respondents have worked with the district for 3 to 5 years. So we got good feedback from people who have all sorts of different ranges of years of experience with the district. So there was about 21 questions that were asked. They were very simple questions. I kind of want to go through how this works. So the question was, or the statement was, I have the resources I need to be successful. Respondents could say they either strongly disagreed, they had no opinion, which in my opinion, they're undecided. They don't know which way they're leaning toward. They agree or they strongly agree. And so the number at the top of the bar is how many, and I apologize that it's not right here, is how many of the 110 responses we have, how many individuals selected that. The percentage at the bottom is the percent of the overall total of the 110. So for I have the resources I need to be successful. 76% they either agreed or strongly agreed that they had the resources they needed to be successful. The next question was, I would encourage someone to work here. Again, 76% of the employees stated they agreed or strongly agreed.
They did it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
I was looking at the top.
yeah.
My leaders treat me with respect. 78% of those polls stated that they agreed or strongly agreed that they were treated with respect. And I apologize, I'm not sure why it's coming out.
They're on ours.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
are.
it's all
I
right.
think it's
Our
just on the
packet is
print.
good.
Okay, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, did something happen here? Okay. So 58%, 59% agreed that my leaders are transparent and communicate well. 18% disagreed, 17 were no opinion or had no opinion, or undecided, and 5% disagreed.
I think out of all of them, this was the one that needed the most improvement.
Yes.
Actually, I think there's
Well-
another one that's,
There's one similar to
Morale.
it, the morale.
Okay, okay,
The morale ones.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
My district supervisor treats me with respect. 73% state that they do. I feel comfortable communicating with my supervisor. 78% feel that they can communicate well with their supervisor or comfortable. I know how my work aligns with the overall goals. 82% felt that they knew how their work aligned with the goals. I received recognition for go to work. 59% felt that they did. I am proud to work for my district. This one, 84% that they were proud to work here, so that's a really good number. Employees know how the vision, mission, and beliefs of Employees know the vision, mission, and beliefs of the district. 63% stated that they did. This was the other slide Mr. Van Matry alluded to. The current level of morale at my campus department is good. 49% felt that their morale was good. 30% felt they disagreed, with 11% giving no opinion. So some areas to work in there. I get training I need to be successful. 57% felt they did. I enjoy my work. 88% felt that they enjoyed their work. It's a really good number.
It's, on that one, I was gonna say, perspective, right? So I enjoy my work, but it seems not everyone else enjoys it as much as I do for morale, right? So, but everyone said they did, so I don't know.
keep in mind the time of year.
Yes.
So
They're exhausted.
It's at the end of a marathon.
Exhausted.
I believe my district has a positive culture. 68%. I feel valued at work. Most green. I am committed to helping my district achieve its goals. This was a great number here. Employees are treated fairly at my district. This kind of levels out again between all the responses. 59% that they agreed though. I believe in the strategic direction of my district. 74% they said they did. I believe in the leadership of the superintendent. 76% they state they do. So overall satisfaction, 78% feel satisfied. We're trying to get to 90. So by the end of, and I think we can get there sooner. 78% feel they're overall satisfied with the district.
And of course, we gotta work on getting more surveys in, right? I mean, because what we have, that's 25%. Of our
Yes.
employees, yeah.
So those questions, they were all required in order to submit the survey. You had to respond to those questions with one of those options. There was 3 questions that I allowed that were, you could choose to respond or you could choose not to respond. So one of the questions that we asked was, what are the 3 best things about the district? And so out of the 110, 101 responded. And so I kind of just try to take words from the responses. And so we had things like, the biggest one were our students. You know, we have great students. We have great opportunities for our students. The teachers want what's in the best interest of our students. They love that we were very, student-centered. We're gonna ask the question, is this the best case scenario for our students? Staff, the teachers were a huge asset. One of the best things we have, the collaboration amongst them, the teamwork. They talked about leadership, our facilities. The bond was mentioned several times that we're going in.
You don't have the chart on that, on the responses, or what?
No, because they were open-ended questions. It wasn't like a drop down or anything like that, so they could write whatever it is that they wanted in those boxes. Students, TM Pride, our community, that was huge. I saw the TM Pride listed there multiple times. Our safe campuses, our facilities, the longevity of our employees, that our employees do stay here for quite a while. The programs that we're offering, that there's opportunities for advancement. Those were lots of great things that were highlighted about what we're doing well or what's good about our district. So we asked, what are 3 things that could be improved? And so there were 3 things that I would say were highlighted multiple times, of course. Compensation, communication, and consistency. I would say you saw numerous times communication, district level, at the campus level, having a calendar of events, making sure that we're all informed of what's going on within the district, that our staff knows this is, the whys behind why we do and make decisions that we do. Compensation, there was lots of questions, seeing annual salaries. Some say they'd like to see those retention stipends come back. They like to see an increase in the amount that we contribute toward insurance. I think those were the big ones on compensation. Consistency, making sure that, if we ask one, I guess that goes back to communication. If you ask one administrator a question and you go ask another administrator the same question, that you get the same answer from each administrator, that, there's collaboration, we're all on the same page. Discipline, morale, of course, was the other one. Parent involvement, our teachers would like to see us open the schools back so our kids can go to Thanksgiving functions and things like that. Building maintenance, dress code, vertical alignment. So those were some of the things that we saw that we could improve within our district. And then there was a 3rd question that read, is there anything you would like to add or provide for review? So there was 58 responses to that. A lot of them said no or not applicable. There were some other comments, some saying again, I like working for the district, or saying some of the things that they felt that could be improved. But there was 2 comments that I felt like everything else had been addressed in other parts of the survey. And there was 2 comments that I wanted to give you. And one was, I'm grateful to voice my opinions. And the second one that said, you'll be receiving a lot of different feedback. I would like to see admin follow through with policies, action plans, or further discussions on the critiques and responses that you'll be receiving from the survey. Which, very natural. We don't want to do a survey just to do a survey. We want to do a survey, we want to analyze the data, reflect, and then come up with ways on how we can improve. So that kind of leads to our next steps. So what I want to do is, I want to take the survey, since I only have access, dump it into Excel, and I'm going to erase the email addresses, and I'm going to delete all of that information that, those pie charts at the beginning, anything that has identifying information, and I want to delete all that. Scrub all that data and just keep kind of the charts and the comments, and I want to share that with our executive team, because I think it's important that we all know how the staff feels. Then we need to, we've kind of started the analyzation. We need to reflect upon what has been provided. And then we need to identify areas of opportunities. And at that point, we need to bring in other staff, campus administrators, maybe even the staff themselves, and have that collaboration to say, what can we do to make it better? And once we come up with what we can do to make it better, we obviously need to communicate that well, because we have some struggles with communicating, making sure that we communicate and implement an action plan. And then, of course, you don't just implement it and say, I did it and we're done. We need to implement it, and then we need to evaluate its effectiveness to make sure that what we implement is working and improving the morale, improving communications. And so we have some ideas, but we're toward the end of the school year. Everyone's contracts are slowly ending. Some staff has already left. So when we come into the new year, that is going to be one of our goals. I'm sorry, sir.
Whenever you're done, I have a question. Keep going.
Okay. That'll be one of our goals, so that this time next year in May, when we poll our staff, we want to make sure that we're higher than that 78% in overall satisfaction. But we want to look at all those questions, ask those questions again, and see where we increased or where we didn't increase, and see what we can do to improve. I'm sorry.
Okay, a couple comments. Denise is right. Morale, I like my job, but I think morale is more tied into, if you look at the leadership one, right? Leadership and communication, the percentage came way down.
Yeah.
Right? So we're doing some things with leadership and communication, and we're changing that. It's tough, because there's some people, things happening that not everybody agrees with. Is there a way, when you say 54 responses satisfied, is there a way to say, of those 54, 40 of those were from the high school? 15 of those were from the intermediate where they're not satisfied? Because then you can target your conversation to the leadership at those places that they are directly, because leadership affects morale more than, probably next to pay, right? Pay affects morale. Leadership is the next thing that affects morale. And when you look through here, it sounds like out of 110 people, sounds like, yes, it's a small sample, but it sounds like a lot of people are happy with where they work. They're happy with the overall performance. They're happy with what we're doing for them. They're happy with the superintendent. But the leadership and the communication, or the morale and the communication, are down. Because I think, looking at stats and my kind of just going through my ideas here, is we need to make sure the leadership, I love getting the executive team to look at this and all this, but if we can dissect this down to the level that says, at the intermediate of the 15 responses that said, I don't agree, 14 of them from the intermediate, right? And that's something you can share with the team without targeting people out, right? Because then nobody knows who did it.
I can definitely do that.
And then the last part is, yeah, I think, and they even mentioned it further, communication and consistency at the campus level. Again, I think we're seeing the flags of where we're headed. And I applaud your team, Mr. Van Matry, the leadership here that's doing things that are not popular. And we're trying to address things, and we're changing things. And with change comes heartache, and comes pushback, and comes all those things, accountability, all of that. So I think this is really good. I just would like if we can narrow it down a little bit more, so we can kind of, I don't want to say target's a bad word, we can find where is the major problems at, and how can we address those. So that's kind of just my 2 cents.
Well, and then, just to add on to that, that's great comments. The compensation, where are we in the compensation in our area? And I'm not talking about our neighbors across the bridge, that can compensate but are putting more kids in the classroom per teacher ratio. Where are we in our area? I would like to see that again, where we stand. And I think it's important that we communicate that with staff so they know where we are competing at.
Correct.
And I'll go for seconds. I think it's very, very important that we follow through, just like this comment says, follow through with policies, action plans, further discussions. This is our first survey. If we do not get out a message in a timely manner, and we do not give out good information and bad information, and have a plan, the next one's gonna fall flat on its face. Because people are not gonna be behind it to support it. The more people that see, okay, 110 people did this, and look at what they're doing, look at what they're changing, look at what's happening. Then we up our numbers, and at the same time, we're upping our approvability or approval rate, right? I don't know if approvability is a word, but approval rate, right?
Level of satisfaction.
Yeah,
Yes.
the level of satisfaction, so it's all a daisy chain. But we're right here at the bottom, and we cannot afford to get to the 1 yard line and fumble this away. And then in next year, we're saying, well, only 72 people did it this year. And I
Yes.
think it's encouraging that the years of service was good because it's two different leaderships. You know, we had what we had before, and then we're a little bit steadier now, right? We got a little bit steady going. So I think that's good that we have people from 3 years to 30 years, 20 years, so they've all seen different kind of leadership here. So I think
Yes, that's what I was
it
really
captured a
about.
very good, maybe small, 25% is small. I mean, if you can get to 45% on a survey usually, I'm surprised you got to 25% with it not being anonymous, just being confidential, to be honest with you, because I'm very skeptical of stuff like that, right? Like, why do you need my email address if you're telling me it's anonymous or confidential, right? So I think 25 is a good start, but I just want to make sure we follow
Yes,
through. That's huge for us.
And that's truly what's gonna be important, like you said, and we have talked about that. If we don't do something and the staff doesn't see it, they're gonna say, this is just a waste of my time, why am I even gonna bother with this? And we don't wanna see that. Next year, I wanna be able to say, we're at 210, or we're at, a better percentage. And so that is our goal. We do have some work to do. Overall, I think, for baseline data, I think it looks good. I think there's areas to improve, and that is gonna be our goal for next year.
Results always positive.
Do you have a question?
I 100% agree with taking it down to the campus level so they can see that data. But also if we can tie it back to, or at least 2 or 3 of them to our strategic plan on how to raise it. I think some of it's already captured in there, but it would be very good if we directly tied it to 1 or 2 of those bullet points. So we as a board can also have a focus to keep progress on
Okay.
X.
And another great reason to have a strategic plan.
Yes, sir.
You gotta have a plan,
Yes.
right? And then, we adapt to it and we overcome obstacles, but again, the strategic plan is paying itself off with some of the benefits we're getting from it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
following through with that and getting the results to us.
Well, if I could, Vanessa, I'd like to congratulate you and your staff, as small as they are. You did this in a time period where you're at your busiest. But you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, moving on to number 4, a report on the TM Bond 23 updates.
I see Patrick going back and forth. He's not going to be sitting down tonight, that's all I'm saying. But at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Hernandez.
Madam President, board members, good evening. We're here to, Sergio and I are going to give you an bond update on Bond 23, on the key things that we've been moving forward with. The progress report, if we go to the very first one, is just to discuss our field trip on the CTE site visit. On June the 3rd, myself, Ms. Kenna Moody, and David Wiltshire visited Brazoswood and Angleton High School. You may ask yourself, why those high schools? They are in a heavy and industrial area, much like ourselves, and we wanted to see how they took advantage of the industry in their area for their CTE program. Both programs were heavily involved in using the industry in setting their curriculum and their course of study, all right? Brazoswood took it to a different level. They set up like a foundation very similar to our foundation, but a CTE foundation, and they had a goal to generate $5 million to help continue their program and support the efforts. A year and a half into it, they're at like $6.5 million. The industry has definitely stepped up. Their biggest supporter is Dow Chemical. They have the Dow Chemical logo on the outside of their building, again, because they donated $2.5 million. Inside.
What's their student capacity or
So
ratio?
They're slightly larger than us. They're at, they're 5A schools.
Okay.
And I'll talk about it in just a second. These facilities are a little bit bigger than what we're expecting, but it was mainly because of the industry, we focused on these groups. So with Brazos Wood, so they had the foundation, and very basic on the inside. When you walk to a classroom, the nameplate of the classroom had the sponsor, the company sponsor, the room number, and then the teacher's name on there. So it was very basic. Some of the schools that they had visited when they were looking to build their school went and each single chair was stitched with the company's logo and everything, but they decided to keep it professional. Not even too much on their school logo at Brazos Wood. They use their school colors throughout the area, but not even too much branding of the school. It was mainly just a professional work site. Angleton on the other side, very much into their school colors, white and purple. The Wildcats, and there was definitely a lot of purple in the building. So that was a couple of the other differences and why we selected these schools and looking at it. Brazos Wood, of course, was built post Uvalde, and it was built by our architects VLK. So we got to see the type of work that they can do. Very pleased with it. Angleton was built by PBK, and it was built pre-Uvalde. So there were some distinct differences on the security, whereas Brazos Wood was already geared up for that. We looked at the changes that Angleton had to make to bring it up to it. The feeling that we got through when you very first walk in, it was like walking into a mall. Brazos Wood is a 2-story complex, so you walk into a lower level and it looks like shops on both levels. Same thing at Angleton, it's just a 1-story facility, but it's huge. It's same thing, the mall feeling. You walk through it, you can look through the windows, you can see the activities and programs that are going on. So very modern design. Excuse me. The Brazos Wood, in their designs, the layouts very, very friendly, user friendly for the students to get through it and easy to see. Angleton, because it was pre-Uvalde, the design, their initial concept, the way they had it laid out was kind of like a day at the mall almost. You went in, your very first stop was at the Vet Tech Center, and you would drop your pet off to get him groomed, clipped, bathed, and all that. And while he was getting that, you would walk over to the Cosmetology Center, and you could get your nails done, you could get your hair done, spa treatment, anything you wanted there at the Cosmetology Center. When you were done with their culinary school is constantly cooking something. You could go get their meal of the day for, I believe it was $12.50. We'd get you a meal, a dessert, and a beverage. They, like us, they got rid of their automotive, and that was the final piece in your thing. You also dropped off your vehicle to get your oil changed while there, but they sunsetted the automotive division. So that was the design by that, but because of Uvalde, they had to change that a little bit. They've, with fencing and some security adjustments, they're hoping within the year to get back to that where the public can go and take care of or access those features that the students would provide. Things that we looked at, of course, we're benchmarking our programming versus their programming. We wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything, missing anything. Both programs, when you walked into the facilities, welding was number one. That was the biggest facility area in both of those. Of course, cosmetology, vet tech, culinary, all the programs, we're pretty much in line with those, so we're not missing the mark on anything like that. Overall, then the access, like I said, the main thing was just the access. Brazos Wood is disconnected from the building. The main high school, so it has a fenced-in area, breezeway to get to it. But you do have the check-in, just like the security vestibule and everything that we're planning to put in ours, where you check in everybody that's going into the programming. The fencing on both of them, the exteriors, the lay-down areas, all those everything that we're looking to plan is for safety and security features and stuff they're incorporating into theirs. As far as the maintenance, we took away a couple of things from the maintenance, the design, and all their hallways at the Brazos Wood, they go up to at least 6 foot with tile. So their walls are very clean. They're easy to keep clean and everything because it's all ceramic tile. Another thing that stood out is in technology at Brazos Wood, every classroom had a projector and they had Wi-Fi capabilities. So with with their laptop, any of the students or staff can log into the projector and project onto the screen. Whereas at Angleton, they use this type of technology. They got touch screens on carts. And in a lot of the classrooms, the cart just looks out of place. It's just so much neater to have the projector screen mounted on top. I think the other major things, the nice thing at Brazos Wood, their floral design class had the pass-through refrigerators through the hallway. So as the students are walking down the hallway, you could see the floral work. And then on holidays like Valentine's and stuff like that, you could purchase roses, flowers for your family, significant other, or anything like that. Overall, just great designs, very simplistic maintenance-wise, polished concrete, things that we're looking at, easy to maintain and everything like that, and just a secure layout. So very happy with the design of Brazos Wood. I think we selected a great architect. VLK is going to get us a great product. These schools were a little bit bigger than what we're getting. They were a little bit over 90,000 square feet, so about a third larger than us. But they'll be able to compensate. Some of their hallways were up to 25, 30 feet in width. We'll have to sacrifice some of that wide open space so that we can get everything that we need in our little compact space. But overall, a good site visit.
It's very, very important for us to get the industry involved with us.
Yes.
We have a golden opportunity. That's huge. I mean, if you could get the industry to support the CTE the way they support things like STEM, you know, that should be our goal.
So we need to follow the Brazos Wood. Their relationship was, like I said, not only money, but in the programs for the classrooms and everything, it was top notch. We've got to do that.
Yeah, just a question to you. You said heavily industry. Did they have I&E, instrument technology, instrumentation, electricians?
So electricians, yes.
Mechanic, machinist, but they just had welding.
Welding was the biggest thing.
Okay, so they didn't provide any of the other things that the industry around
So,
them.
well, they do electrical, they did have an electrical program, but that for industry, it was welding. That was the biggest thing. And at Angleton, it was 6 labs. They broke it down to, they have the beginner welding, the intermediate welding, and then the advanced welding program. They have labs for all of that.
With, I guess, Coastal Bend College kind of dictating the curriculum, how much leeway do we have for industry input?
That I'd have to punt to Ken on that. She went for that. Unfortunately, she's not here tonight. But I do know that once we take over some of it
I
in-house.
guess, were they partnered with the community?
They'll have significant input. If the design of the building needs to be flexible, that we can transition and move. If one of the CT courses is dying, there's no interest, there's no post-secondary, we're not going to keep it. So industry, in conversation with them, what we want to do is those kids who want to go to work post-secondary, we want to be able to provide Flint Hills, Citgo, Valero, people that can immediately go to work, have the soft skills and the certification to do that. So they will drive that curriculum.
Operations technicians.
That's a good selling point, right?
Yes.
That's a good conversation piece to have with the industry.
And what we also want to do is what you and I had texted back and forth. We want to create a suburban innovation zone where the state will incentivize sharing students, keeping ADA, and then in the formula funding, allow us to receive more Tier 1 funding for that. That's a win-win for everybody.
Any questions or anything? All right, moving on to the natatorium. ARC VOK, again, has been very busy with their consultants. They've been exploring all the nooks and crannies of the natatorium. They've been underneath it, they've been on top of it, they've been on the side of it. They're working up their recommendations for us here soon. We know for sure that we're gonna, of course, one of the big things for this bond was to get HVAC into the natatorium. That's gonna be a reality. We know that we're gonna have to do some sort of roofing work on the roof. It's gonna require probably some major repairs to the roofs. Skylights are in bad shape, so we'll have to do that. Below, some of the precast panels have broken. We'll have to repair the precast panels. As far as the pool, the actual foundation of the pool, it's not shifted or anything. It's in really good shape. So we're good with the pool. Things that will be changing on the inside with the pool, what's gonna be done in this project, what we're getting for our money is, of course, they'll drain the pool. We're gonna resurface the inside of the pool. Where they're going to replace the gutter system. The gutter system around that collects the water for the pool is too small for our size, so they're gonna have to increase it. The bulkhead has been an issue because the pool was actually built in meters instead of feet, so we had to use a bulkhead to correct that. So what we're gonna do now is take out the bulkhead and actually infill the pool there, and our sump tank is too small. It's, the sump tank is just a tank in the pump room that holds additional water to circulate into the pool, and it's undersized for our size pool. So they're gonna be able to build a barrier wall in the pool that the kids won't notice, and there'll be that'll be a sump tank, that little area that's between the bulkhead and the pool. And it'll be covered with the deck, and you won't be able to see it. And in today's meeting, they requested that we actually put starter blocks on that side so they can start from either end of the pool. So there, no more bulkhead, won't have to replace it or anything like that. And our pool will be correct size for swimming in Texas.
I just realized what y'all are talking about with that. I'd seen that thing for years and
That
never
silver
even
thing.
put two and two together. Like, even when I was like, I never knew. Okay, now I got it. I'm a little late.
Well,
but I
back
got it.
history, our contractor that built the pool was from Minnesota and thought everybody swam in meters. We swim in feet.
Patrick, on when you set the panels, at one level of the flooring, isn't it tilted or, outside the foundation?
The foundation's good. What I'm talking about is the precast panels because it's suspended slab and the pool's down there. You can actually crawl around there. There's concrete panels at the edge of the wall that go down into the dirt and they keep the dirt from washing in. A number of those panels have broken. So they're just gonna replace those and backfill the dirt and protect it so that when it rains and stuff, like right now, water's going in and rain. And fortunately, we've been in drought, but when we get heavy rain, too much water in it could shift the pool. So we just wanna protect against that.
Keep the foxes out?
Yes. Kinda like the fox.
I like it. We can build them a little home.
So,
They keep all
the
other
resurfacing the pool, the gutter system, of course, we're getting all new pump system, filter system, chemical system, heater system, new scoreboard. Hopefully, we can afford a video board, new touch pads. We'd like to do the touch pads where we run the conduit in the deck, so we don't have those trip hazards and all that space. We're looking, of course, repainting the entire interior, upgrading the lighting to LED lighting. Especially if we elect to get rid of the skylights, the coach really wants it to be brightly lit, and we can do that with LED lighting.
AC.
Bleachers, AC was the first one I led off with. Upgrading the bleachers, possibly adding additional seating. In brief calculations in the meeting this morning, our seating capacity is at, I believe, 206, 250, 260 is the actual capacity for that. And of course, when we have an event, you guys know that it's almost 500 people in there.
Yeah.
So we're looking at all the costs and everything. They'll give us options. If it's possible to extend the building out towards where the canopies are at and increase our seating capacity by about 100, that would be a good thing. So we'll look at all that.
What about the boards?
Yeah,
The scoreboards.
Yes, those are getting replaced. The company for that is, I learned that today, is Colorado Scoreboards, is the company that they'll be using for that.
How long do the touch pads last?
Because of the cables, they get tripped on, they get walked on, stepped on. That's where we're getting maybe about 3 years out of. And that's why we're looking to invest into where the cables are buried, and they're fixed, and you just plug them in and get longer life out of them. So we're looking at the timeline for this, when would all this happen? We had the meeting this morning with the coach. She really wants to get the most she can out of this last season. So this morning, she said that she would like us to start construction mid-February of 2025. And we're looking at about 8 to 9 months, so that would put us in October of 2025 when we'd reopen the natatorium.
With the except, I'm sorry, go
It's
ahead.
all right. Do we know where the swimmers are gonna swim during that time yet?
We're gonna work on that.
Okay.
Either CCISD, Cal Allen. Ideally, Cal Allen is the closest pool, and we shared our pool with them for so many years.
Exactly.
I would assume they would reciprocate the favor, let us swim there.
While I was out, did you touch on the exterior wall that they're gonna, once we go out for bids, they're gonna start on immediately?
No, so on the structure thing, there's a brick tie failure on the exterior wall where the canopies are at. As soon as we get a contractor, that's gonna be the first thing that we're gonna look at. Paul, I think you're the only one that's left on the board from when we were building the PAC Center. We had a brick failure at the front of the building, the entire front wall, the brick ties were failing. When they built the school back in '83, brick ties are just, they tie into the structure of the building and they lay on the bricks, and every so many layers there's a tie, and that just keeps the wall from falling over. In our environment, our harsh chemical environment, those ties should have been made out of stainless steel, and they just used regular steel. So the front of the building, they corroded, and that's when we had to immediately replace that wall. Over at the natatorium, we're seeing that in one spot. We're gonna immediately correct that spot. We're also gonna do testing, continue testing around the natatorium to look for that. And I've got Mr. Van Major, and we're probably gonna test the rest of the building too while we have the company out here. And the testing involves cutting out some of the bricks, and visually inspecting the brick ties with the camera on the inside, and then they'll replace it with some new brick. All right. Any other questions? Security cameras. Pleased to report that we're substantially complete at the primary, intermediate, and the ACC. We've got cameras, the new cameras are up and running at those campuses already. There's just a few cameras, exterior cameras, where there wasn't cameras in the past that they're still working on to run some cabling and get those mounted out in the poles. They're currently working at the middle school, and by the end of this week, they should be substantially complete at the middle school, and then they will start at the high school. The SPED cameras are in, and they will start working on those immediately too. While they're doing the high school, they will start installing the SPED cameras. Not only are we getting new cameras, technology is doing a great job. David Wilshire is cleaning up our technology. He is reassigning the addresses for all these cameras. As we were doing site visits and we saw these other districts, how they addressed their racks, they were very nice and clean. So you went up to a rack and you could see that this rack, all these connections were all cameras. These were all door access controls. These were all computers. David, ours was a bird's nest, and David has taken the time and cleaned it up. So prior to NCS coming in, David has taken the time and assigning all new IP addresses, so our technology will be cleaned up from that side. Again, all of this should be completed by the start of school, July 17th.
All of the high school cameras too?
Yes, everything, high school and SPED should be completed by then. Had the occasion to use the camera system for an event last week. Very sharp, very clear. It was awesome. I'm looking forward to working with this camera system. All right. Moving on to HVAC. HVAC, that's Bill Wilson. We're moving forward with that as quickly as possible. The very first HVAC project that we're doing with the bond is the replacement of the primary air conditions and the admin building. The oldest air condition in the district sits on Phillips' side of the building. It runs on R22. It makes noises, it creates everything.
Let's do it better.
So normally we save admin for last, but because it's some of the oldest units, we included it with the primary bid. It is currently out for bid right now. Next Thursday, June 27th, we have the pre-bid meeting at 2 o'clock here, and we'll meet with the contractors, and then the bids close on July 11th. Once we get the contract, we'll bring you guys the contract, the company that's selected. We should see early August units going up in the primary and intermediate. Something that's not HVAC updated, but I forgot to include, is just you probably noticed the construction outside, right out here. We've had sewer issues for years. There's a sag in the sewer line. And when we had extra guests or a large capacity here, we always have to jet out the sewer system. So we use the bond money. It's about $29,000, $30,000 to correct the sewer lines, and that's what they're doing. They should have it corrected by next week. All right?
Yeah.
All right.
No one's kidding.
Now I'll trade places with Sergio.
Good evening, President Boone, board members, Superintendent Van Matry. So we're gonna follow up on the other items on the bond. We do have South Texas Building Partners that are helping us with our security vestibules here, in case you guys have any questions during that presentation. But first, the baseball stadium. It's complete. We have some nice professional pictures for you guys. Not only pictures, we did take a little bit of a drone video that should come out here pretty quick on the presentation.
And they broke some school records on it.
Yes.
So I know the baseball season was a success, and I think they're fields that are the envy of the area for sure. I think Patrick said nobody wanted to come play you guys over here because you're undefeated. So all these pictures and images and video we'll share with the school districts so you guys can share it on your websites. And of course, so that the community understands that, the bond money is already being used and, you're reaping the benefits already.
Just need some cover.
Are the foul lines supposed to, the poles supposed to be moving?
With the wind, there's a little bit of shear force with the wind because they have kind of that extra flag portion on it. So they'll shift a little bit with the wind, but they're not in any danger of falling. So the rule is it's a third embedded. So if it's a 20-foot pole, it's 10 feet down on the bottom. So you're good. It's not, nothing's gonna happen. And not only is it embedded, it's also there's a concrete foundation in it. And it's windstorm certified. We had an engineer stamp and seal all that information.
One of them shakes like this all the time. None of the other ones.
It's the right field
It's the
line.
softball field, yeah.
Yes, the softball
It's
right
the-
field line.
Okay, we'll have Hellas check it out, just to put everybody's mind at ease to make sure. So that was the baseball. Again, great season, great fields. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the tennis courts. So we started the tennis courts in May, moved pretty quickly. They laid down the acrylic, which was the black, which you see on the left corner, and then they started putting the first coat of the colors. This was Thursday, and then already today, they already had infilled it with the color. Unfortunately, because of the weather, they're not gonna be able to finish it off, because their goal was to try and finish it off by the end of the month. But we're anticipating rain, so they finished the first coat. There's 2 coats to finalize the colors, and we wanna make sure that it's not gonna run, or there aren't gonna be any cracks with the weather. So they've halted, expecting the rain coming tomorrow night and Wednesday. So once the rain dries up, within 24 hours, they'll come back and finish that final coat. They probably have about a week and a half worth of work left to finish this part. Again, this is just the resurfacing of the tennis courts. They did start working on the canopy shade structures. What you see here are the cantilevered arms that would be holding the shade on there above the spectator stands. So this again, because of the weather, probably slow them down a little bit more. Our anticipated completion date, like I said, was at the end of June. Probably we're gonna get a 2-week delay with the weather, so we're looking middle of July, probably closer to the end of July to finish up, hoping weather dries up.
They're really excited about that maroon and gold.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess one thing to keep in mind on these, there will be logos, the TM logo on each side of each court. So you should see 6 logos total. So the security vestibules, last board meeting, regular board meeting, you guys approved the GMP. We got with the contractor, told them to move as soon as possible. We kind of explained to you that they'll move in and try and get 90% of it complete for school. We're still on track for that. There will be some temporary things like I mentioned, but this is kind of where we're at right now. In the primary, they've demoed the restrooms and they started framing for the bullet resistant panels. And here you just see kind of the sheetrock going in, that's gonna be the new conference room. This is still in the primary. Within that scope of the security vestibules, we started working on the infill of the classroom accordion walls. Those were demoed. They're already dried in and they're doing the tape and float. All that's really left is painting and adding the rubber base on the bottom. In the intermediate, they've demoed the little trophy area that was down there. And they've started the demo and installation of the framing for the conference room as well. So there's 4 total crews right now. This is the second crew in the intermediate, so they're a little bit behind compared to primary, but they're doing the framing of those walls since primary is about to finish up. And then in the middle school, they're framing the vestibule walls, and on the classroom walls, they've demoed them. So you kind of see progress through in all campuses, but just at different phases. And this is still in the middle school, working on the cafeteria window infill. They've protected, the cafeteria, making sure it doesn't get too dirty. And you can kind of see them starting to break and remove the glass in there. What you will see here, and we'll go over each item in a minute, but you will see here, so you can be aware, you'll see plywood. So they're gonna fill it in with block on the inside, and you're gonna see plywood on the outside for a little bit. Mainly because our brick does take a little bit of time to come in. On the specialized brick and block, we're looking anywhere between 10 and 12 weeks. So you'll see plywood there on the outside, but it will be block on the inside, still protected. Nobody's gonna be able to get in. It's gonna be weatherized as well. And then in the high school.
What's the date of the ETA on the brick?
So it's between 10 and 12 weeks, and
That puts us in
August.
August? Okay.
Yeah. The high school, that wall that's gonna separate the performing arts and the high school is being framed. This is kind of hard to see, sorry, rotate a little bit, but these are the bullet resistant panels. So it becomes a system where you have the stud walls, the bullet resistant panel, and then the finishing drywall in the end. What ends up happening if there is a shooting, it will go through the drywall, but it will not get past this. If you want an explanation, they're really good at explaining it. You want to explain it?
No. It's basically, if you know anything about building boats, where they put multiple layers of woven fiberglass, so it's sheets of woven structural fiberglass together to create in a board. And then they do testing on it, and it stops bullets. But that's basically it.
That's the way I understood it as well. So these are the 4 campuses that are being worked on right now. The other 2 campuses, which includes the administration office and the ACC, we're a little bit behind schedule on those, mainly because this brick is really dark and it's gonna take a little longer. And we don't wanna tear off the walls and be exposed as much. So we're gonna wait on the brick. I think the administration is semi-safe. But we'll work on making sure that once that brick comes in, knock it out either after working hours or during the weekend, or if it does come in during like an intersession or spring fall break, we'll put it in there as well. The other one was the ACC. We're a little behind on that one because it is under permitting with the city. Questions on the vestibules before we go to the exterior doors? As you're aware, the exterior doors are a district-wide project. All campuses are getting new exterior doors with new hardware. With that being said, we're ordering over 200 doors, and so those doors have been ordered, but it is, again, a long lead time, so we're waiting about 8 to 10 weeks on that one. But once those come in, we're expecting the company to do it, G-Tech, to come in and do about 2 to 3 doors a day. And junior high updates. So, a few weeks ago, we had a really, really good discussion with the middle school leadership. It included administration, and it also included head teachers or department heads of teachers. We discussed what it is that their expectations are. We discussed the strategic plan and how this new building will be able to accomplish the strategic goals. We also discussed things that aren't working that well in their current facility and how we can improve it in a new facility. At the end, we did take a survey. I don't have the results yet, but once we have the result, we'll share it with you. More than anything, very similar to the survey Ms. Riggs made, asking them, do they feel they have adequate facilities to do their job? And for the most part, it was a good mix that felt that they did have that. But again, I'll share that information at a later time. Our next steps are to involve the community and hear out the type of buildings they want to see, the typology of the exterior, whether that's a stone, whether that's a brick, whether that's something different that they want to see or prefer, and make sure that we're hearing that input. We'll definitely include board members, staff, but we really, really want to hear from students as well as their parents, because this building will be a large building, and it will definitely impact not just the look of the area, but we're hoping to impact, right, the students and how they feel about going to school. Again, going back to our strategic plan, yes, ma'am.
Wasn't there yet. I did get some feedback from our tennis organization on and I don't know if we have it in our budget, but that the current rendering showed less courts than we have now at the middle school. And so that may or may not be an issue for tournaments and stuff that we typically host.
Good to know. We'll definitely take a look at that again.
Yeah,
Sure,
sorry.
no problem. What I will say for our design, we will keep moving, but we are a little bit behind on the land acquisition. We've met with the realtors. They're working on a presentation for you guys for next month, but we don't have land yet. And so it's a little hard for us to put pen to paper without land. So once we have that though, because we're able to have that information from the bond information that we collected, and now all the meetings that we're having, we should move pretty quick. I feel very confident. My staff and myself will get you a very quick design that's going to be unique and very innovative for the area. But we are kind of at that critical point that if it goes probably past August, we might see a little bit longer delay than we expected. Our timeline going with Mr. Van Maintry was to have this school ready and open July of 2026. So that puts us starting construction of January 2025. So that puts us being under contract with a contractor around November, December. So very, very compressed timeline as it is. So again, the longer we, not necessarily wait, because they are moving on the land, we're just not finalizing it yet. The longer that takes, the kind of more compressed on that timeline will be. Just giving everybody an update on that.
Patrick and I have two trips coming up. Tomorrow, we're having a breakfast meeting, moving forward with land acquisition, and then I think it's next week, we're going on a field trip. We're going to visit an owner.
Can you tell us what area?
I'd rather do it in executive session.
We're looking at several options though, or just, okay.
There's a really cool slide deck that you're going to see that is all of TM and then it shows where we can't build, and then it'll show you where we can. So you'll get a really good visual of that.
And the realtor people obviously understand the urgency?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Van Matry was on a phone call with them Friday. I talked with them today, again, stressing that we need something as soon as possible. But again, doing it the right way, doing all the diligent work that they're doing. Just like Mr. Van Matry said, they're doing, where can you not build, right? There's certain proximity on the industry portion, there's proximity on the airport. So all those factors kind of,
A lot of pipelines
a lot of pipelines.
And I was
wells.
surprised with the wells.
and the wells.
And the wells in low-lying areas.
I have a question.
Of course.
We were here in a meeting several months ago, and Mr. Guerra from the service center was here. And on this existing middle school, that's gonna become a 5th and 6th grade campus?
It's going to be three things. It's going to be a 5th and 6th grade campus, which will encompass about 2/3 of the facility. Then the special education offices will move over here, and then we'll use it for training.
So what he stated was that when you build a new school, like if you were building a new middle school.
Right.
And let's say we were gonna do away with this campus, well, there's not much you have to do with it, right? But he stated because of the new legislation, that if we're gonna keep a campus open, that building had to be brought up to,
Code.
well, yes, code, but not like, no grandfather, So how much is it gonna take of that, or can we even use bond money to bring this campus, because we never mentioned that in the bond, but can we use, is there money for that, or is that gonna come out of the general fund to bring this building up to code?
Let me take a stab at
Okay.
that before you get to the code. Of course, this will be vetted by the bond attorneys, but the ballot language was broad enough that any renovation of existing facilities can be subjected by bond funds.
Not only that, you, and probably Patrick's gonna get mad, but you do have maintenance funds. That's just like, you're already eating into my maintenance funds. However, what I will say is, just like he said, we will have to vet it, because technically, it's not gonna be the same campus, right? That's a 5th and 6th grade campus. A middle school is 6, 7, 8. Now you're doing a junior high, which is just 7, 8. So we'll work with, the attorney and.
But I
making
think
sure
what
that
you're
that's-
questioning is the money that was allocated for maintenance and renovation,
Yeah.
I think would be appropriate, but.
Absolutely.
And my question is, have we, I haven't heard that we had even looked into that, but have we looked into
I haven't.
upgrading the system, or how much would it be?
There is, Patrick, there was conversation on, aside from safety and security, improvements at the middle school campus.
Yes.
I just don't know what they're budgeted. I know some HVAC.
HVAC, roofing, flooring.
Yes.
all that. Now, my understanding of the law, and I have to do some more research, but my understanding is if we abandon the facility and say Arlington Heights wanted to make it a campus, they would be responsible for upgrading the facility to current standards. We've never left the building, so we're still the owner, so we still stay grandfathered.
That's not what he said.
That's the way I understood it.
Leo was there with me at the meeting we had here in the boardroom. He said it has to be brought up if you are gonna use the building for your students. He didn't say if you're gonna rent out the building. He said if you're gonna use the building for your students, or use the campus in any matter, it has to be brought up to, dated code.
But we've never abandoned the building.
I know.
We'll get an opinion.
We'll review it,
Yeah.
and what I will
I'm just
say
saying it's
is,
something to look into,
Absolutely.
because,
one thing
clarify.
we're definitely gonna do, I know the community meeting, but we're still meeting with, administration from the middle school and do a facility assessments of their current building.
Exactly.
So that's also one of our steps, to see, hey, you have all these classrooms here, how many do we really need on this next one? And then from there, we can crisscross and say, hey, you have enough classrooms for the 5th and 6th, and this is really all we can, or all we have to renovate for that portion, but that's coming, for sure. So that's the junior high. Mr. Phillip has a financial update.
Well, I was just asked how much interest that we earned on the bond funds. As of yesterday, it's $505,000. We're soliciting, I think I have a meeting tomorrow. We're, with the Valley View, we're investing in some CDs tomorrow. Or we put out the flyer like, okay, give us our best deals on some layered CDs. So we're gonna be investing in some CDs here very shortly with some of the money. And that's where we're at.
Are those funds restricted in any way, Philip, or?
The Stanley IMSI.
Yeah, everything we earn can go back to, projects that are approved for the bond.
Okay, it's just anything within the bond?
I have just one last update. It happened at 4:30 this afternoon. We took possession of the 3 buses. So the 3 school buses, the full-size school buses are now in our possession. The SUVs scheduled to arrive at sometime next month in July, and then the mini activity buses still are on slate for October,
Can you send me a picture of that?
as soon as I get one.
That concludes our update. Again, if there's any questions, we're here to answer them.
That was a great update. Lots of good information.
Covered a lot of material, answered a lot of questions.
And we are on schedule with the 4 campuses that are being worked on to be ready for school. Additionally, the interior partitions should be done within the next 2 weeks so that when teachers come back, they can start already decorating their classrooms.
So on the new middle school, if we get past November of this year, it's gonna be another school year.
I would anticipate that, or at the very least, half of the school year.
Move again in January.
Christmas present.
That's how we did our 3rd grade switch from the intermediate, halfway through.
Any other questions, discussion?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Great
Good job.
information. All right, moving on to number 5, discuss and consider TM board travel for the 24-25 school year. I'm the one that asked for this to be put on the agenda. I just wanted to discuss, we're talking about cuts within the district, and I think it's only fair for the trustees to talk about their budget. And there's, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 conferences that can be attended.
Yes, ma'am. Accelerate, MASBA, Galveston, and TASB.
Okay. So this is all up for discussion. It had to be on the agenda in order for us to be able to discuss it. But in order to cut the budget, kind of like everybody else is doing, and this is just my opinion, maybe cutting down to 2 per trustee to help with our budget. And so I just kind of wanted to start the discussion on it. I want to get y'all some more specific information about what our total budget is, how much was spent this year, how much we could save by only attending 2 conferences. And I'll get that put together and then send it out in the email, and then we'll put it on the agenda for next month also, to actually take a vote on it. So just kind of wanted to.
I had a comment, so kind of towards the end of this past semester, some of the librarians reached out to me and said how, as we were cutting budgets, they were asked to pay for their conference, and we have very few librarians. And so when I received that, I immediately, I felt bad about everything we do on the school's dime. And so, yeah, I'm pro this initiative.
So anyways.
The librarians have to pay for their own trip? Is that what you're saying?
We have not made any cuts for this fiscal year, so I'm not sure why that happened. No.
We cut the paraprofessionals for next year, but I don't know of any travel restrictions that we've done yet.
Not at all.
Your office handles that.
Yeah, don't they choose to go to some on their own, though?
Correct. We're talking about something that was chosen as a kind of one-off from the district. I think that may be what we're talking about here, because the campus,
so,
the
yeah.
campus budgets the librarian budgets are controlled by the campus principal. So I would say probably speak to the campus or the
We
specific.
have a couple of principals here. Are you aware of
I
any?
know that they attended several though, but cutting
Yeah, 'cause
back would be a good idea. You're right, since we're cutting back. I think there's several that they're able to go to and they tried going to all of them.
Right,
At least
maybe-
I understood.
Okay.
And maybe that's what it is that they were used to going to all, but we
Yes,
could say of the 4, you can only go to 2,
one or
and then you have a
two,
split.
What's your recollection?
I kind of I give them a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And they put it towards travel, towards whatever, so they're kind of in control of, I tell them, you got $6,000,
Make it work.
make it work. So it's kind of up to them. So if they're short, I will tell you, I did not have any money to supplement them. So if it is my campus, I didn't have any money left over to do that in May.
But they usually decide as a team, they all
Right.
work together and decide which ones they're gonna go to, but there are several to choose from. So maybe if we cut back like 1 or 2 a year. Cause they go to like the Book Fest in Dallas, they go to the
Right.
one in San Antonio, they go
the
to
ESC
several.
one, they-
Yes.
TCA is another one they go
Right.
to.
And I kind of just want to bring us back to the agenda item that's
Yeah,
up
sorry
for
there.
discussion right now. So anyways, that's why it was put on the agenda. Everybody kind of be thinking about it, and I'll start getting some more specific information for you. And then I'm gonna have it put on the next agenda so that we can take a vote on it. I think we should do our due diligence of trying to help out with the budget also. So,
If you're just looking at current, what the conferences you run, it's pretty much between hotel and registration, it's about 1,200 to 1,500 for one person to go per event, so that's kind of a benchmark.
Yeah, for about a 2-3 day conference.
okay. So that was it. If anybody has any comments or any discussion,
That's a good
I think it's a good
idea,
idea.
because there's some districts that have that in place already, some of the rural districts they have, where they give one person, they come back and tell them about it. And I've heard some horror stories about that, but they also have where 2 members from each one go. That's in some of the smaller districts that I've talked to. Some of the larger ones, I think most of them don't go because they can't get off work or something, so, but there are some smaller districts that lower to 1 or 2 people.
Even, I know HEB, ISD, I think they're limited to 2, and then for larger conferences, or each member's limited to 2, and then for larger, like the Washington DC, I think they sent 1 individual or something.
Yeah, there's some of them usually lower.
all right.
Budget concert.
All right, so that was just discussion. Moving on to discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. Does anybody have any comments about the check payment register? I know that I'm very concerned about the amount of money being spent on Power School.
I think, in fact, I'm fairly certain, next month or the month after, we're gonna bring a proposal to transition from Power School to Ascender.
I mean, this is, if you go back to the past 2 years, it's,
Yes.
I mean, I think we've paid more in fees than we paid for the program.
It's cheaper.
It's crazy.
There'll be a one-time cost that we'll have to eat, but it'll pay for itself over a few years. And the staff, not the new staff, but Philip and company know Ascender very well.
And Ascender has fixed some of the bugs and stuff in it.
You wouldn't even believe, Mr.
Yeah,
Mostello.
I've heard about it. I
The
mean,
fix is already there, we just have to get us back there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't want to throw shade on Power School, but it's very obvious that the initial rollout and training, we're still paying for that ineffectiveness.
When did you say that it was gonna come to us?
You want to address that, Philip or John?
I would say maybe by August, we'll have we already got a proposal, but it would be it's gonna be another conversion back to Ascender. We're gonna do the student system the right way.
1 year.
1 year. So we would have one more year of e-school.
Okay,
Uh,
that was my
and that-
question,
and
if
during
it
the
was
le-
semester or
During the
full year.
24-25 e-school year, we would have that whole year to get the data that we do need out of e-school into Ascender. And the goal would be to get Ascender ready to start building master schedules for the 25-26 school year. But we have plenty of time to get that data back into the system and get ready to roll out the school system in 25-26 for Ascender. So,
This also helps us return back to ESC2, because currently we're contracted for PEAMS and TSDS support through Region 20. And so that kind of helps kind of bring us back to our original, the motherland of ESC2, where we really do need to be, because this support's right down the road. And since they are now staffing the building with some new folks, and for that reason, they're also working to support our CAP plan too. So it's really a good time to do this now as they support us through the CAP as well as through this migration, because it's gonna be the same team. So with all that being said, this is a good time, because they'll really get to know us, get to know our needs, and to really help us understand what we need them to do to help us get our data back to Ascender.
and then the non-student side conversion is gonna be a little bit trickier, because our renewal with Power School is December the 17th. I'd rather not, I'm okay, we're committed to one more year of e-school, because that's what we need to do that transfer, that conversion back the correct way. I'd rather not renew another year of e-finance if I don't have to. Plus, my version of e-finance, they're gonna stop supporting it in November, and the upgrade costs $11,000. So I don't wanna pay for an upgrade that I don't need.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be tricky, still working out some details to see if it's possible for me to be able to convert the business side to before the end of this calendar year. We have a couple options that we're still exploring, so that would be the plan.
Okay.
And is the
We'll
fee,
come- Sorry,
I'm sorry,
that's all right. We just kind of need to come back to what we were on, the
Yes.
consent agenda items. We're getting way away from,
well, I just had a question on the amount, the total check, at least for the Power School is $105,000. Is that an annual fee, or is that I noticed it has on here 12/17 of 23 to 12/16 of 24.
Yes, that's the annual fee for both systems. I think that includes the hosting, because we have an additional amount to host.
but we've had monthly fees, extremely high monthly
And
fees.
then everything else that you want, any training to help us correct our incorrect implementation has cost us. And like, I'm also, I don't know, I guess maybe some softwares, or most software companies, and at least Region 20 Ascender is this way. You pay your annual fee, that includes any upgrade that happens that year, any training that you need. Now, if you ask them to come do a site visit, that's gonna cost you. But if you do everything virtually, remotely, you pay one fee and
That's
you're
part of the
included.
support.
With Power School, everything is extra. Everything is extra. I can't believe I have to pay $11,000 to upgrade to the next version that they're not gonna support.
We paid for it like 3 times,
So,
the system.
Or more.
Any other questions for the check payment register? Okay, number 2, the May 2024 financials. Any questions?
The 8.9, that's what our budgeted fund balance is going to be with the 3.2 deficit closeout.
hopefully it'll be a little better than that, but that's
Yeah.
worse, that's.
Right now, it says that fund balance is projected to be 20.3% of, what is the percentage to get the highest rating on an audit, and does that put us? Yeah,
There's
next
no-
year, would we
There's no
be?
there's no required percentage in the audit.
I think it's 2 to 3 months of operating expenses.
It's recommended at least 3 months. That's like the
25%.
standard. rate.
25%.
25%. That's the recommendation, but there's no,
There's no ding on the audit.
there's no ding in the audit.
What about on first?
On first, the only impact that might be on first is there's some indicators on there, like if your cash on hand is low, you lose some points on first. So in theory, if your fund balance is getting into that range, you know, you might have some cash issues. But there's no requirement. We do not have some districts have a board policy that says the fund balance must be this. We don't have that. So we have no board policy requirement. There is no TA requirement. There's no audit requirement. But we're looking at, it needs to be, 3 months is the general consensus. Now, one thing we basically do it before, because it didn't matter. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. It does matter. There's $2 million in the budget that's for on behalf, which is not an actual expenditure of the district. So if I take the budget, if I take the $2 million off, that also gets us a truer operating number. I've never had to do that before. We're gonna have to start doing that to show that once we take on behalf out, which is not an actual expenditure, it's just a revenue and expense that cancel each other out.
I'm aware of that cushion, and in my mind, it makes me feel better all the time. But yeah, I was just curious.
We're still back to where we gotta reverse the trend and we gotta start going the other way.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
So I know that percentage is a function of the expenditures, and I know your instructional budget is gonna go down, right? Do you know how much it will go down this year? I mean, you've budgeted some stuff, but you're going to adjust that, right?
I will talk about that on the 17th,
Okay.
the 15th.
So that'll affect that percentage somewhat.
That's true.
Yes, it's a percentage of your expenditure. Yes, you take your expenditures and divide by 12 and multiply it by 3. That's your number, it tells you if you're at 25%, you hit your 3 months.
Budget amendment. Any questions? Any questions on the tax collection report?
Just, we'll super need to highlight that coming the next budget cycle.
And were there any questions on the regular and special called board meeting minute? Do you have a question, Leah?
I do have
Okay.
just a quick one. In going through the food service fund, I know we have a limited amount of time to spend the fund balance.
Well, they want us to spend it all tomorrow.
Okay. So we have any plans or?
Yes, we're purchasing some small wares. I think we've got several things. The tables finally came in. And I don't think we paid for them yet though, but they finally came in. I don't think I've seen the bill yet to pay them. But we have some other kitchen needs, some equipment needs. Looking at our walk-in freezers, some of them need some upgrades and some updates, so we're getting ready to start on that.
Thank you.
And regular and special called board meeting minutes. All right. If there's no other questions or discussion,
Madam President, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Paul. I have a second, Leo? I have a motion made by Paul and a second by Leo to approve the consent agenda items as presented. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 7-0. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.076.080.081.083.084. At the pleasure of the board, would y'all like 5 minutes? Or would you like to go? Yes, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, or 10?
Let's see who gets
10,
there first.
okay. Okay, we have reconvened from closed session. It is 11:55. We do have business to take care of.
We hired some people.
Yeah.
Superintendent recommends that the Board of Trustees issue an administrative probationary contract for the 24-25 school year as presented.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Paul A, and I have a second by Paul M. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0.
So you have who made the motion and
Uh-huh.
got it. Thank you.
All right, is there any, yes?
Madam President, members of the board, administration recommends that the Board of Trustees issue an educator probationary contract for the 24-25 school year as presented.
Motion, Paul A,
Make it easy.
second, Paul M. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0.
One more. Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees issue a dual probationary contract for the 24-25 school year as presented.
Okay. I've got Paul A made the motion. I got a second by Paul M. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0. And then your evaluation.
Madam President, members of the board, the administration recommends the superintendent summative evaluation as presented.
I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Hey, there you go. We're hogging it up over here.
Yeah, golly.
We have a motion made by Kim and a second by Janie. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 6-0. Our future meeting is July 15th, 2024. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting if there's no further business?
There's no further business.
I have a motion made by Paul A and a second by Paul M. All those in favor to adjourn the meeting? Motion carries 6-0.
You didn't even look up.
I saw your arms going up. It is 11:57 and this meeting is adjourned.